John Garrard Burton-Page was a British Orientalist lecturer in the art and architecture of India at the School of Oriental and African Studies. He was an editor and prolific contributor to the second edition of the Encyclopaedia of Islam between 1960 and 1995. Burton-Page's contributions to the Encyclopaedia of Islam fell into three main categories: Muslim sites and monuments, Muslim dynasties, and Islamic building typologies. These contributions were reprinted in a posthumous collection edited by his former student George Michell. Life. John Burton-Page was born in Westcliff-on-Sea, Essex. Though he enrolled as a horn player at the Royal College of Music, his study was interrupted by World War II. He served in India and Burma, ending the war as a captain in the 1st King George V's Own Gurkha Rifles. Having become fluent in Hindi and Nepali on return to England, he entered as a mature student at Wadham College, Oxford, to study Sanskrit. After graduating in 1950, he went to the School of Oriental and African Studies as a temporary lecturer in Nepali. He stayed at SOAS for over 3 decades, later as a lecturer and reader in Hindi, becoming increasingly interested in Indo-Islamic history and architecture. His final post was as reader in the Art and Archaeology of South Asia, and he continued to write and teach for some years after his formal retirement. Works: The Name, Nepal, Bulletin of the School of Oriental and African Studies 16-3, p. 592-7. 2 Studies in Gangura 1. Tone 2. Roticism and Retroflexion, Bulletin of the School of Oriental and African Studies 17, p. 111-9. An Analysis of the Syllable in Boro, Indian Linguistics 16, pp. 334-44. The Syntax of Participle Forms in Hindi, Bulletin of the School of Oriental and African Studies 19, pp. 94-104. The Charm of Indo-Islamic Architecture, An Introduction to the Modern Phase, Bulletin of the School of Oriental and African Studies 19, pp. 393-4. Compound and Conjunct Verbs in Hindi, Bulletin of the School of Oriental and African Studies 19, pp. 469-78. Aziz and the Sack of Swarka, a 17th-century Hindi version, Bulletin of the School of Oriental and African Studies 21, pp. 145-57. Notes on 2 Problems in Indo-Aryan, Bulletin of the School of Oriental and African Studies 21, pp. 174-8. The Gender of Loanwords in Hindi, Indian Linguistics 20, pp. 165-79. A Study of Fortification in the Indian Subcontinent from the 13th to the 18th century A.D., Bulletin of the School of Oriental and African Studies 23, pp. 516-22. Introduction to Nepali, a first-year language course by Thomas Welkin Clark, School of Oriental and African Studies, 1977. An inscription from Amber Fort in the Victoria and Albert Museum, Bulletin of the School of Oriental and African Studies 49, pp. 174-8. Indian Islamic Architecture, Forms and Typologies, Sites and Monuments, 2007.